Friends, hey, it's Gary Fly with Performance CXO. Excited to be with you all today, and we have a guest. Jonathan Vehar is with us today. I'm so excited about that.
I'm excited that you pronounced my name right. So
First time too, right?
not bad.
Okay.
Very impressive.
Very good, very good. I listened actually when you did your sound check. I was paying
Well
attention.
done, sir. Well done.
So, Jonathan and I have gotten to know each other over the last couple of years through a mutual connection, and recently have become more formally acquainted with the Performance CXO Innovation Lab. The Innovation Lab has come out of, is really the result of some work done by Dennis Stearns. He recently published a book called Ninja Entrepreneur, and in that book, one of the things that Dennis really started to hone in on was entrepreneurs and their ability to innovate, to stay relevant, to grow their businesses and their enterprises, right? And Performance CXO is really focused on helping growing businesses continue their growth. So it's a natural linkage, I think. But before we get into too much detail, Jonathan, I'd love for you just to give a little bit of background and how you got involved in innovation and just anything you think might set the table for us.
Sure. Like any good career, I really stumbled into it. I went to college with the intention of working in advertising because I thought that was the only field where you could be creative, right? And I learned that there are other places you can be creative too, which naturally led to a study of interest in creative thinking, which led to innovation. And I went back to grad school and studied creativity, innovation, and change leadership, and got totally hooked on the concept. And when I graduated about 30 years ago, I became very interested in how do you help organizations become more innovative? Because there's this natural tension between like running the business, like getting the income, doing the things we've always done, and then trying to do something different so that we can augment the revenue streams and profit. And so that journey sort of led to working with organizations to help them learn how to be more innovative, facilitating innovation teams that were trying to do things, which led to a real big interest in leadership because leaders really create that culture that allows innovation to either flourish or die. And then that sort of led into a real big interest in strategy and accountability. Because I don't think innovation happens without leadership, strategy, or strategic intent, and accountability.
So you got three principles or base keys that have to be in place for innovation to really work and take hold.
Yes, all of which I am proud to say I stumbled upon because like one thing just sort of led to the next.
Sure. So it's the old three-legged stool,
yes,
recreated for innovation.
Exactly right.
Very good. So how do you help a company, or how do you teach a company to innovate? What does that look like?
Yeah, there's really kind of, four legs of that stool. And so a lot of it is focusing on the process, right? So what's the process that an organization is using to drive new ways of thinking about things and then pushing those through the organization so that they actually make it out to the other end? So one of them is about process, teaching people about process and how do you think differently. The second one is about the product in terms of what is it that we're trying to build. So we're paying attention to the new service, the new solution, the new business model, whatever that is. The third one is about the process, or it's not the process, the press, if you will, which is sort of what's the context, what's the culture, what's the environment that allows new ideas to either thrive or die, to be sort of embracing that. And then the last one is about the people, which is what are the people doing from a behavioral perspective, from an attitudinal perspective, that's going to encourage ideas and solutions from other people. So we're looking at how do we do it. We're looking at who does it and what do they need to do to make that happen. What's the surround around them, the culture and the environment, and then what's the outcome that folks are looking for.
Yeah, perfect. And as viewers of these videos might know, we love to have lists. So three things. We had the list of three. Yeah. Now we have the list of four.
There you go.
And I hope that the business owners and leaders that watch these really can take some of those and bring them into their own business. So Jonathan, you just gave us these two great sort of frameworks to think about innovation. Mm-hmm. In one of them, you mentioned leadership, the critical role leaders play.
Yep.
It's common for me to see in client companies and people I work with, maybe a little confusion about change and versus innovation. And what I mean by that is I see rapid change because the leaders have an idea, right? It's maybe they're chasing the shiny object. Maybe they go and hear a speaker and they say, oh, that's what we need to do. And this change creates whiplash through the organization. It hampers the company or the employee's ability to really grab onto something. They're not able to absorb the change. But I feel like these leaders view that change as innovation.
Yeah.
I'm curious if that spurs any thoughts for you.
For me, one of the things that is the hallmark of innovation is, does it add value to the organization, right? And value looks like different things, whether it's new source of revenue or new ways of doing things. And so for me, the distinction there is that change is sometimes about like, hey, let's just rearrange the deck chairs, right? And let's put people in different boxes and let's spin off things and all that. And then the question for me is, does it really add value? Is it a new source of revenue at its purest, I guess, for the organization? And I think that part of the job of leaders at different levels of the organization is to get really clear on, is it really adding value, or is it just an exercise in doing things differently, right? And there is value in doing things differently, right? Sometimes we need to be more efficient, or we need to just sort of clean up the way that things are. But at the end of the day, if it's not something that's going to add some real value to the organization, then the question is it worth the effort, right? Is the squeeze worth the juice?
Sure.
Or the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah. Juice worth the squeeze.
Some juice.
Along those lines, again, I do believe that sometimes there's confusion in leaders' minds that, we're making these changes, therefore we are innovating, right?
Yep.
And they get confused between the two. Is there a coaching tip that you have? I love the idea of, does it add value as sort of the litmus test. But is there a way that leaders can pause for a moment, look in the mirror and say, am what I'm doing rearranging the deck chairs versus adding value?
So certainly the value is a good litmus test. And I think the other question to always ask is it something that is meaningful to the customer or the client or the end user, right? The person that you're serving through your organization. Because if it's one of those things that it's more internally focused, then the question is, does it provide the value that the customer is looking for, right? So again, does it provide value to the client, to the customer? And if so, that's probably more along the lines of innovation and worth chasing from that perspective.
That makes perfect sense, and that's a great way, a framework for the business owner or business leader to think about it. It causes me also to think about like timing of innovation. So oftentimes, again, I get into discussions and they're like, we have to do this now because the marketplace is changing, or AI is going to disrupt everything, or how do you sort of think about timing, or do you think about timing with innovation?
Yeah, I think it's a really important question. Dennis talks about speed being one of the key distinguishers for ninja entrepreneurs, right? And so I think that ability to be fast is important. And this is sometimes a contrarian view. I don't believe you need to be first to market. One of my favorite books is one called Will and Vision, and they did research in 60 different industries, and the market leader was not the first to market, right? And so I think so much of it is, are you timing it right in terms of what the market needs in the moment, in terms of what the customer needs, and that's, I don't know a good law for that, but I think that there's so much of the myth of the first mover advantage, right? Which I think really is a myth, and I think if you can get to the market as quickly as possible with the right solution rather than being first, that's the key to success.
So picking up off of that, this idea that first movers maybe not as critical as people think, and my experience is that there's a natural urgency oftentimes with business owners, like we got to be there now, right? How do you think about then maybe either prioritizing the potential innovation things you want to work on, and how do you think about the litmus test of, okay, we have 5 things we could do, we really need to do this one or this one or this one versus the other 5?
Yeah, I think that it's not, from my perspective, and I think that there are exceptions to this, right? But I think it's about being best to market rather than first to market.
Love that.
And so if we can be the best to market with the right solution, I think that's important. Now, that's not to say that you don't want to also go forward with the minimum viable product, right? It's not to say it has to be fully fleshed out, fully formed, all the bells and whistles before we launch, but it's about saying, are we going out there with the right solution for our customers rather than just with the intention of we want to be first because I think long-term success is about being best to market, not first to market.
Right. Love that term. I've never heard be best to market. I always hear be first to market. And that makes, as soon as you said it, it's like an aha of like, that makes perfect sense. Right? If you go there with the intention of really delivering value to the client, to the customer, you understand what the market wants, and you're the best at it, makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Where do you see companies get tripped up with innovation?
So companies get tripped up with innovation, a lot of different things, but I think that the biggest one is building off of what we were just talking about. It's the need to have it all fully fleshed out, fully baked, fully formed, and perfect before they go to market, right? And so rather than like, let's go out there and let's test, let's see what the reaction is, let's see what the customers want. So I think it's too much going out and like waiting to have it absolutely perfect, and it's not really what the customer wants. So it's going out there with something that the customer's not interested in. I think the other thing that happens is that too often there's this I want to hold it close, right? I want to create it. I want to be the person or the team or the organization that does it all by myself, rather than talking to all of my key stakeholders.
Right.
The organization I used to work for, the Dale Carnegie organization, one of their lines that we build into the leadership programs is that people support a change that they help to create. And so people support a change that they help to create. And so if I'm like trying to be the person who has the big idea and go out with a ta-da, here it is, that's usually a recipe for failure. Right. I think that the ta-da moment means that you didn't do your work up front. So what you really want is everybody to say, hey, we created that. We helped to create that. We love that so much that we want to drive it. We want to push it. We want to embrace it. And I think that's one of the key things where people get tripped up.
That's interesting. So thinking about that, you introduced the concept of making sure you tap into your stakeholder network, essentially, if you will.
Yes.
I'm imagining that's clients.
Could be. Yep.
It may be people that didn't select you. It could be. It's certainly internal people.
Yes.
But
yep.
Right. It's like a very intentional. What's the roster of people that have something, some information, some knowledge of value that could really inform this decision?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Right. So at Dale Carnegie, I was a vice president of product development and product management, and we had a map that basically said, all right, so we've got our core team that's working on these new products. And it's the course designers and the various people that we pull in, trainers, all that sort of stuff. And then we've got the people sort of on the secondary ring that we're going to talk to fairly regularly. And then outside is like all of the stakeholders, so that we're talking to clients, we're talking to customers, we're talking to the people who are going to be in the classrooms experiencing these offerings. And so really thinking about who are all those people that can have a say in your success, and making sure that they're part of the process so that at the end of the day, it's not a total surprise.
Sure. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? Involve the team, leverage their knowledge, right? They know, they understand things, and they can bring real value to the ideas and the innovation, if you will.
Quick story about that, right?
Yes.
So we were building a brand new leadership curriculum, leadership training curriculum for this organization, and about, I don't know, we were 4 or 5 months into the process, pretty well in, and one of the people who was going to have to deliver this training program, we had a very long, very loud conversation. I still remember I was sitting at a gate at LaGuardia Airport, and I finally just said, do you just not want me to create this? Do you just not want us to create this new stuff? And he said, no. I said, I just think you're going about it wrong. I said, oh, okay. So he said, let's just get together with some of the other people, some of the other key trainers, and let's talk through like what we think is right and what we think is wrong. I'm like, well, okay. And so he and a group of other folks who've been really kind of big barriers to this launch of a new program that was going to replace an old one, they sat down, we walked through it, and at the end of the day, they're like, you've now got the program that you need, right? Was it a dramatic change? Not a dramatic change. But at the end of the day, those were the people who end up championing this new product throughout the organization and beyond.
Right.
And so again, people support a change that they help to create. And if you just try and do it all internally, it's not going to work. And that was a huge learning for me.
Right. Jonathan, you've talked about minimum viable product being best to launch. You've created some frameworks to think about innovation. Well, we're starting the Innovation Lab, right? And it is a road under construction in some ways, but it's also filled with people that are really skilled in this. What do you hope people will get out of the Innovation Lab, or companies get out of the Innovation Lab?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of real benefits from it. So one of them is, I think, by having a deliberate process and structure rather than just kind of trying to do it ad hoc. Right, and so many innovation efforts in organizations, not all of them, but so many of them are just kind of like people have an idea, they try and drive it through the organization, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So having a deliberate process and methodology to go through that with other people that can offer fresh perspective, valuable perspective on the solutions, the approach, the ideas. I think that's the second thing that's really important, is like being able to talk to people who aren't like living the same world that you are, to get those fresh perspectives. And I think the third thing then is about having people hold you accountable for moving that forward. Right, part of the challenge, one of the tension that exists in organizations is we gotta do the stuff that provides the revenue, the same stuff we've always done, and we've got to innovate. And when push comes to shove, if there's a choice, it always goes back to we've got to keep doing the things that generates revenue. And so having a deliberate process and people to hold you accountable and fresh perspectives to sort of move that forward is what's much more likely to lead to innovative output or innovations, rather than just like hoping for the best and I'll do it when I get to it.
Right. No, I like that. Right, having this group of people to help you pressure test the idea, hold you accountable, and move you through a process.
Yeah.
Jonathan, when I think about you, I think about innovation. However, less than a month from when we're filming this, a month ago from when we're filming this, you and Kathy Breeze Dobler wrote a book called How to Make Meetings Not Suck.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Well, so my co-author, Kathy Breeze Dobler, and I have been spending a lot of time facilitating meetings over the last 30 years or so. If you boil it all down, right, it really comes down to kind of two things. One of them is that most people that run meetings think about the meeting itself. And a lot of work needs to happen up front to make that effective. And work needs to happen afterwards to make sure something actually happens from it. And so we talk about this radical concept called before, during, and after, right? Which is thinking about like making sure that you're spending almost as much time up front, making sure that when you get people together, it's time well spent, right? So the first thing is thinking about before, during, and after, not just the meeting itself. And then the second thing about it, if you boil it all down, is it's about awareness of the people in the room and what they need, right? Why do they need to be there? Why waste their time if they don't need to be there? And then along with that is respect, right? And so it's respect for the people, respect for their time, so that, people aren't just sitting there thinking, this could have been an email.
Right.
I may have been in a meeting like that this week with another organization. This could have been an email. And that was actually the back channel that people were chatting on Zoom. It's like, this could have been an email. So respect for that and awareness of what it is that people need.
Perfect. I love that, right? One thing that I often talk to clients about, and it seems so basic to me, but it plays off of your respect idea, is that you start and stop the meetings at the start and stop times.
Yeah. Yes.
And that seems like a novel concept to a lot of people.
It seems like it. Yeah.
And oftentimes I've had the opportunity to coach people because towards the end of the meeting, somebody, invariably it's the most senior person, will say something like, "Hey, does everybody have a hard stop, or can we go a little bit late?" Makes me crazy.
My blood pressure just rose. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if it's the most senior person in the room, what's everyone else going to do?
Well, I'm canceling my meeting right now. What's next?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let me stay in here because I'm now now hostage to this never-ending meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that we talked about in the book is so that respect for the time, and also it's the notion that we have what we call the do's and don'ts, the do's and don'ts list, the top 10 list. It's actually 11 because we're not accountants, we're meeting facilitators. But one of the things is like a meeting doesn't have to be an hour. Right? And so why is it that the default for a meeting is an hour? And so either people will spend an hour covering something that could have been done in 9 minutes, or it's just like, well, I've got that 9-minute thing taken care of. What else should I stuff in here to fill up time?
Right.
So why not a 13-minute meeting? Why not a 22-minute meeting, right?
Right.
Or more to the point, why not end the meeting early? In my course of doing this, I have never disappointed a group by ending a meeting early. I mean, maybe that says more about me, but I don't think so. I think it's everybody.
I think that's a universal.
I think you're right.
I think that's a universal trait. It's also funny the way meeting dynamics have changed with this virtual. You mentioned that a minute ago. People on Zoom and whatnot. Yeah. I was in a meeting yesterday and had one of the people tell me that there was a back channel Teams chat going on.
Oh yeah.
I learned that Teams chat was not about me or our team, but that's also now a sort of a real thing that happens probably in most of these virtual meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, and what we see is there's if it's in virtual, there's the Zoom chat that everybody can see. There's the private Zoom chats that are going on. There's probably also the separate team chats that are happening on the phones or the other devices, and then there's the one-on-one stuff that's also happening. And so there's like all of these multiple levels of things that are happening virtually that's just competing for our attention.
Sure. Right.
So that makes it tough.
Yeah, and so I think going back to your idea of the pre-work,
yep,
making sure that the meeting is well structured, that there's a purpose to it,
yep,
understanding why the participants are there and ensuring that they understand their role, and then not holding people longer than they need to be really starts to solve some of those challenges.
Absolutely, right. And just the agenda itself will not solve any problems, but without one you're doomed, right? And what we like to say is, hey, no agenda, no attenda. And so it's thinking through like what's the purpose of each item on the agenda, what's the process that you're going to go through. Agendas that I hate are like, hey, we're going to have a discussion. We're going to have a discussion about productivity. Well, that's time wasted, right? But it's like, what's the specific process that we're going to go through? Are we going to do some brainstorming? Are we going to have like a round robin discussion? Like, what's that look like? So we got the purpose, we got the process, and then we've got here's the desired outcome. Here's what we need to walk away with. And it may well be like, hey, we're just trying to inform everybody else of what's going on. Or it might be we need to have a decision about something, or we need to have a plan of action. But if you're not clear about what the desired outcome of the meeting is, you're probably not going to get there.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have a target to shoot at.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jonathan, thinking about the Innovation Lab, what might be indicators to folks watching this video that the Innovation Lab might be a resource that they'd want to tap into?
Yeah, I think a big thing is a pain point of, boy, we need innovation. We need new sources of value. We need to be able to do things differently. We need to be able to meet the needs of our client. And we just don't know how to do that, can't seem to make the time for it, can't seem to be accountable for getting it done. And we really need some support and help to make it happen.
Sure. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? Don't have the bandwidth.
Yep.
Don't really know the next step to take. Just are kind of overwhelmed by the operational responsibility that the running a business causes.
Yeah, it's kind of like innovation. I want that, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get that.
Yeah, perfect.
The Innovation Lab is for them.
All right, well, very good. So for anybody that's interested in the Innovation Lab, we have information on the Performance CXO website. They can reach out to me directly at Gary@performancecxo.com, and be happy to explain it more, happy to arrange a meeting with Jonathan or anybody on the team that would be of help. So appreciate you watching, and thanks for your time, Jonathan.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Gary.
Take care.